Have you ever been in a situation where someone says or does something that just crosses the line? Maybe it's a snarky comment from a coworker, a family member who disregards your feelings, or a friend who pushes past your boundaries like they don't even exist. It's that moment when your stomach tightens, your heart races, and you're left wondering, what do I say? How do I handle this without losing my cool or my dignity? If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. We've all been there, grappling with how to respond when someone steps over the line. The good news? There's a powerful way to reclaim your space, assert your boundaries, and walk away with your head held high. In this journey, we're going to explore the most effective thing you can say when someone crosses the line, a response that's clear, confident, and respectful, yet firm enough to stop the behavior in its tracks. This isn't about confrontation or escalation. It's about empowerment, emotional intelligence, and knowing exactly what to say to protect your peace. So, let's dive in and discover how to handle those boundary-busting moments with grace and strength. Before we get to the magic words, the most powerful thing you can say, let's talk about boundaries. What are they? And why do they matter so much? Boundaries are like invisible lines that define what's okay and what's not in your relationships and interactions. They're the rules you set for how you want to be treated, how you want your time respected, and how you protect your emotional and mental well-being. Think of boundaries as the fence around your personal space. Without them, people can walk all over you sometimes without even realizing it. And when someone crosses that line, it can feel like a violation, leaving you angry, hurt, or even questioning yourself. Why does this happen? Well, people cross boundaries for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes it's ignorance, they don't know where your line is because you haven't clearly defined it. Other times, it's entitlement, manipulation, or just a lack of empathy. Whatever the reason, the impact is the same. You're left feeling disrespected or dismissed. But here's the thing, boundaries aren't just about saying no or pushing people away. They're about creating healthy relationships where everyone feels respected. When you set clear boundaries, you're not being selfish. You're being honest. You're saying, this is who I am, and this is how I deserve to be treated. So, why is it so hard to enforce boundaries? For many of us, it's fear of conflict, fear of being seen as rude, or fear of losing a relationship. We worry that standing up for ourselves will make things awkward or push people away. But here's a truth bomb. People who respect you will respect your boundaries. And those who don't, well, maybe that's a sign they don't belong in your inner circle. The first step to handling boundary violations is recognizing when they happen. Maybe it's a friend who constantly interrupts you, a boss who expects you to work late without asking, or a partner who dismisses your feelings. Whatever it is, the moment you feel that pang of discomfort, that's your cue. Your body is telling you, hey, something's not right here. Listen to it. Now, knowing that a boundary has been crossed is one thing. Responding to it effectively, that's where the real power comes in. And that's what we're going to unpack today. The most powerful thing you can say to stop boundary violations without escalating drama or compromising your values. To understand how to respond when someone crosses the line, it helps to get inside their head and yours. Why do people push boundaries? And why do we sometimes let them? Let's break it down. From a psychological perspective, boundary violations often stem from a mismatch in expectations or communication styles. Some people are just clueless. They don't realize they've overstepped because no one's ever called them out. Others, though, test boundaries intentionally. Maybe they're trying to assert control, get attention, or see how far they can push you. This is where power dynamics come into play. In any relationship, whether it's with a coworker, a family member, or a stranger, there's an unspoken negotiation of power. When someone crosses your boundary, they're often testing whether you'll let them take the upper hand. And if you don't respond, they might assume it's okay to keep doing it. Now, let's talk about your side of the equation. Why do we hesitate to speak up? For many of us, it's because we've been conditioned to prioritize harmony over honesty. We're taught to be nice, to avoid rocking the boat. But here's the kicker. Staying silent doesn't just let the behavior continue, it can erode your self-esteem over time. Every time you let a boundary slide, you're sending a message to yourself that your needs don't matter. That's why the most powerful response isn't about yelling or shutting someone down. It's about asserting your worth in a way that's calm, clear, and undeniable. It's about flipping the script on that power dynamic and saying, I see what you're doing, and I'm not going to let it slide. Psychologically, The way you respond can also influence how the other person behaves moving forward. A firm but respectful response signals that you're serious about your boundaries without inviting unnecessary conflict. It's like setting a tone for the relationship. This is how we're going to interact, and I expect mutual respect. Interestingly, studies in social psychology, like those based on assertiveness training, show that people who clearly communicate their boundaries are perceived as more confident and competent. On the flip side, those who let violations slide are often seen as less assertive, which can invite more boundary pushing in the future. So, what's the secret sauce? It's not about being aggressive or passive, it's about being assertive. Assertiveness is that sweet spot where you stand up for yourself without trampling on someone else's dignity. And that's exactly what the most powerful thing to say is all about. It's a statement that's rooted in assertiveness, clarity, and respect for yourself and the other person. Hey, I'm not okay with how much extra work I've been taking on lately, and I need us to address it respectfully. Can we talk about how to balance the workload fairly? This approach calls out the issue extra work, states your discomfort, and opens the door for a solution-focused conversation. Suppose a friend makes a snide comment about your life choices in front of others, and it stings. You could say, I'm not okay with the comment you made earlier, and I need us to address it respectfully. Can you explain what you meant by that? This invites them to clarify their intent while making it clear that their behavior crossed a line. The boundary-pushing family member, let's say your parent keeps giving unsolicited advice about your career, even though you've asked them to stop. You might say, I'm not okay with the unsolicited advice, and I need us to address it respectfully. I'd appreciate it if we could focus on other topics when we talk. This sets a clear boundary while keeping the tone loving and open. How you say it matters just as much as what you say. Here are some tips to make sure your message lands. Take a deep breath before you speak. A steady tone shows you're in control. This signals confidence and seriousness. Focus on your feelings rather than their actions to avoid sounding accusatory. Be prepared for pushback. Some people might get defensive. Stay firm but kind, and don't get drawn into an argument. If they try to dismiss you, you can reinforce your boundary by saying, I hear you, but this is important to me, and I need us to work through it respectfully. This phrase is powerful because it's a boundary-setting Swiss Army knife. It works because it's clear, non-confrontational, and solution-oriented. It tells the other person, I value myself, I value this relationship, and I'm not going to let this behavior continue. It's not about winning a fight, it's about creating mutual respect. Now, let's be real. Not everyone is going to respond positively when you call them out. Some people might double down, get defensive, or try to flip the script. So, how do you handle pushback without losing your cool? First, expect it. When you set a boundary, especially with someone who's used to crossing it, they might feel challenged. That's okay. Their reaction is about them, not you. Your job is to stay calm and stick to your message. Let's say you use the magic phrase, and they respond with, you're being too sensitive. Here's how you can reply. I hear that you think I'm being sensitive, but I'm not okay with how this is going, and I need us to address it respectfully. Can we talk about what happened? This response acknowledges their point without agreeing with it, then redirects the conversation back to the issue. It's like conversational jujitsu, you're using their energy to keep the focus where it belongs. Another common pushback is minimization. It's not a big deal, just let it go. In that case, you might say, it might not seem like a big deal to you, but it is to me, and I need us to address it respectfully. Let's find a way to move forward. The key is to stay consistent. Don't let their reaction derail you. If they keep pushing, you can escalate slightly while staying calm. I've made it clear that I'm not okay with this, and I need you to respect that. If we can't address this respectfully, I'll need to step back. This sets a consequence. Without being a threat, you're not saying, do this or else. You're saying, I'm committed to my boundaries, and I'll protect them if I need to. Using this phrase effectively takes confidence, and confidence comes from practice. Here are some ways to build that muscle. Practice in low-stakes situations. Try setting small boundaries in everyday life, like saying, I'm not okay with being interrupted. Can you let me finish? Before a tough conversation, imagine yourself delivering the phrase calmly and confidently. Get support. Talk to a trusted friend or therapist about your boundaries. They can help you refine your approach. Reflect on past wins. Think about times you've stood up for yourself successfully. That's proof you can do it again. Over time, speaking up will feel less scary and more like second nature. You'll start to see yourself as someone who deserves respect, and others will too. Setting boundaries isn't a one and done deal. It's a lifelong practice that gets easier with time. So, how do you make sure your boundaries stick and your relationships stay healthy? Let's explore some long-term strategies. The best way to prevent boundary violations is to set expectations up front. If you're starting a new job, relationship, or friendship, be clear about what you're okay with and what you're not. For example, at work, I'm happy to help with projects, but I need advance notice so I can manage my workload. I value our time together, but I also need some space to recharge on my own. When you communicate boundaries early, you're less likely to end up in situations where someone crosses the line. Not all boundaries are created equal. Some are flexible, like how often you're okay with last-minute plans. Others are non-negotiable, like not tolerating disrespect or manipulation. Take time to identify your non-negotiables, the things you absolutely won't compromise on. Write them down and refer to them when you're unsure how to respond. Surround yourself with respectful people. Here's a hard truth: some people will never respect your boundaries. If someone consistently ignores your needs, it might be time to reevaluate their place in your life. Surround yourself with people who value your boundaries and make you feel safe. Setting boundaries can be emotionally taxing, especially at first. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, whether it's through exercise, journaling, or just taking a moment to breathe. When you're grounded, it's easier to stay calm and assertive. Boundaries evolve as you grow. What worked for you 5 years ago might not work now. Periodically check in with yourself. Are your boundaries still serving you? Are there new ones you need to set? Reflection helps you stay true to your needs. When you consistently set and enforce boundaries, something amazing happens. You start to attract healthier relationships. People who respect your boundaries are more likely to stick around, and those who don't will naturally fall away. Plus, you'll feel more confident, empowered, and in control of your life. So, there you have it, the most powerful thing to say when someone crosses the line. I'm not okay with how this is going, and I need us to address it respectfully. It's a simple phrase, but it carries so much weight. It's a declaration of your worth, a call for mutual respect, and a step toward healthier relationships. But more than just words, it's about the mindset behind them. When you say this phrase or any variation of it, you're saying, I value myself enough to stand up for what I deserve. You're taking control of the narrative and refusing to let someone else define your worth. The truth is, setting boundaries isn't always easy. It takes courage, practice, and a willingness to face discomfort. But every time you speak up, you're building a stronger, more confident version of yourself. You're teaching others how to treat you, and you're creating space for relationships that lift you up instead of dragging you down. So, the next time someone crosses the line, whether it's a small slight or a major violation, take a deep breath, channel your inner strength, and use those magic words. You don't have to yell, you don't have to fight, and you don't have to compromise your values. You just have to be clear, calm, and unapologetically you. And here's a final thought. Boundaries aren't just about protecting yourself from others, they're about protecting your relationship with yourself. When you honor your boundaries, you're honoring your needs, your feelings, and your worth. That's the real power. So, go out there and own your space. You've got this. And with every boundary you set, you're not just saying no to disrespect, you're saying yes to a life filled with respect, authenticity, and peace. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now, take these words, practice them, and let them empower you to stand tall in every moment that matters. You deserve it.